Here we are with the feedback for Bladed, the winner of the Trackbacked competition of winning a free feedback on a track. I selected this track because it was the most unique track out of all the submissions, and it has a lot of interesting sounds that grabbed my attention. So yeah, let's get to it. At the same time, I will give a little demo on what you can expect when you apply for a feedback through Trackbacked. And it starts with you submit your track, and that comes to me. And whenever that comes to me, you will have answered some questions, and I will have this list of feedback that I will fill in as a text, and I will use this as well as my guideline. I do the work up front. I check stuff out so the video goes really fast or faster, and I can go straight to the point. So you will have a written feedback, and we will have, as what you see now, a video feedback to amplify the feedback for yourself to get the most out of it. So let's get into it. I will start by showing a bit of the track before we dive into the feedback. I'll play it now. All right, so I really like this. This is for me an absolute unit of a track. There are things that can be done better, yet off the bat, what I find really nice is the sounds that are used, the guitar playing, the blend between metal and the techno or hard techno that we're in. It's so rare lately that people push the limits of genres or styles or whatever. So I'm really delighted to hear this kind of music. So my hats off to the producer for sure. Now, if we go into the feedback, there's a few points that I made markers on. We have something about the intro, the kick, percussion, vocals, arrangement, overall balance, the synths and melodies, the outro, some plugins I recommend the producer, and an overall feedback. I'm gonna start with the overall feedback, as this is a bit a general thing to it. I find it a very interesting and very unique piece of music, as I already mentioned. I love the energy that it brings, the complexity and the chaos, because it's a quite complex as well as a chaotic track compared to a lot of music that's being released. And I like it. I like chaos. I like complexity. So it tingles my brain from start to finish in a very pleasant way. So love it. Now, if I would play it from start to finish, what I would love as a DJ, what I would love this track would have would be a little bit more DJ friendliness. The track is smacked with things from start to finish, literally here from the start. You instantly have this acid sound that takes up a lot of space already. So if you want to mix this in, of course it is possible, yet it's less clean in a way. Like it just eats up a lot of space already. And the same for the outro. Like this part is still full energy. We're still literally peaking at this point. Now we have this little small part at the end. Which takes it straight back to the intro with even more guitar. So the track isn't really designed for fluent DJ use, and that would be maybe one of my biggest feedbacks on this track. Of course, when you make a track, the intention and the mindset can be different. It's quite possible, I do not know the producer or anything, that he made this track not necessarily be intended to be played live, or let's say optimally or smoothly, which I could understand, yet there's still a reality to it. So by providing an intro that is a little bit more DJ friendly, for example, with a more basic acid like instead of the accent notes, or just kick and simple stuff, it gives a lot more freedom for it to be performed live. Same for the outro. In the current state, you really have to prepare everything really well. Which track I'm going to play before, which track I'm going to play after. I really like to mix on the spot, which then would make this track, even though it's super dope, less interesting because of how it blends. Yet, that's my look on it, and just my look on it. Doesn't mean he has to change something, just my opinion. So, I'm pretty sure the track will work live, nonetheless. Just the ease of mixing, which could be nice. Also, during the track, there isn't a lot of space to mix in another track. So basically, people are almost forced to play the track from start to finish, which could be a nice thing. I like when you force people to do stuff. Yet, I also learned in my experience that if I produce my tracks with space to mix in or out in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end, it has more chances to be played, and there's more freedom for a DJ to be creative with your music, which is always nice. So what I again like about this track is that it kind of breaks what is currently happening in the scene, which I tapped in a little bit. It's refreshing, it's ballsy, it has different sounds, it sounds different. Somebody is breaking the chains of what is happening. So again, kudos to that. Keep it up, keep pushing the limits, keep pushing the boundaries, because we really need it right now. So good stuff. If I continue, I would like to continue a bit on the overall balance, because I feel that has the most potential of changes. What I really like to do in my work when I master music, or when I give feedback or check music in general, I love to work or love to look at the spectrum. I love to work on the spectrum, because that has the most impact in music. So to go a little bit on that, I'm going to mute the track a bit so we can just look visually. So what do we see? This is a very interesting part that sadly just a few people understand or work with. We have an analyzer from the Pro Q4 EQ. I absolutely love this analyzer. If you would have no analyzer to work with, I can highly advise the TDR Prism, which is a free analyzer, which does an amazing job as well visually. Span is also an option, yet for me, Span, in my experience, lacks too much clarity, especially in the low end. It's just too blurry, too unprecise, where I rather skip it. TDR Prism is a little bit better, in my opinion. The good thing to take is that you have to put a 4.5 dB slope. And what I find fun is that you can kind of play with what you want to see, mid-side, just stereo, align, or with a fancy color. And you can play a lot with how you want it to look, which is nice. I like the Prism because of the mid-side view, which I do not have, for example, on the Pro Q. So I like to use them together as well. So now how do we work with this thing? So the 4.5 dB octave tilt is super important because this is the closest to our how our brain looks at music and how we perceive music. So how does the brain then work with music? We have the brain automatically gives focus on the loudest. So also on the analyzer, it will give focus on what is the loudest that we can analyze at this point, and that's the high frequencies. So if this takes all the focus, what's going to happen with the focus of the low end? Well, it's going to get less focus, meaning that it's going to be more crisp in this way, yet it's going to, in my opinion, lacks the low end support. So how can we give it more support? By pushing that frequency area. How much? I don't really look at the dBs. I will just listen and push. I don't care how much dB it is. Sometimes I end up pushing the low end 10, 15 dBs. So go wild, seek the limit in it. So you know how much you can push. If you know how much is too much, then you can find the sweet spot between 0 and too much. So in this case, I will unmute it again and start pushing it and feel how hard this track starts to hit when the sub starts to support, because it's all about support. Subs, they provide a support, they provide a fundament, and if you miss it or it's not dominant enough, you simply do not have support. Would that say the track wouldn't bang? It will bang, trust me, it will bang. A big sound system will smack things so loud that even a mix down with less sub will still bang, because it makes it super loud. Now, if you fix your mix down or your spectrum with a proper spectrum, it will bang twice as hard. So that's why we do it. So what am I going to do? I'm simply going to push the low end until even visually and audibly it starts to support. And when does it support? The moment it starts to peak over the other parts in the spectrum, because then it's going to get the most focus of our brain, and so gets more noticed and do its job. It's all about dividing and providing focus to wherever you want the listener to focus on. We can play with that. So I'm gonna play it and go for it. All right, so off the bat, big difference. Kick starts smacking, sub starts supporting, and the track finally hits like a truck. And that's kind of what we want. So in the overall balance, already in a nice direction, yet more low end would make it bang way more. And we can A/B it a bit properly. The chances are really high. I have to boost the high end again to balance it out to the original. Yet for now, you will already hear the impact of the low end that I just pushed. So there's a little bit of timing difference with the metric KB. Sometimes it has it and it kind of sucks, but we can still compare it, and that's an amazing difference. So that's really what I would advise for this tune, is to, man, crank up the low end so that it really hits like a truck when it's being played. And this also kind of shows a nice extra characteristic of the brain, because if we give a certain area more focus, the other areas will get less focus. So if we have an action, we have a reaction. So now I have to balance it again, and that's kind of what I would advise. I'm also going to send this preset to the producer in case he has a Pro Q4, he can play with it himself. So that would be written feedback, video feedback, and even presets if it's needed to give as much value as possible. Yet, this should be clear normally on how much we need that low end. I'm gonna balance it a little bit again so we can continue on the other feedback. All right, let's see how we did it. All right, so something like this is already nice. I'm gonna check my first EQ. I probably did some more things. See, I boosted that deep sub a little bit more. I'm gonna continue with this one a bit more. As you see, the EQ, it might look strange to some people, yet all it is reshaping of the low end and then rebalancing again that difference that we created, or that balance shift that we did. It's all about focus distribution. So giving this more focus, balancing everything else again. I'm gonna continue a bit with that plugin. See, I went even more extreme in the other EQ and the low end, which is interesting. Every time you do it a little bit different. So if I continue with this one. So this is basically what I'm looking for. If this would be my track, this is what I'm looking for. Maybe even a little bit more low end. I kind of balanced it again to what it was, because that honors the work of the producer as much as possible. So what would I advise? Totally ramp up the low end, because that's going to enhance the overall balance. And it's gonna hit even more. So now the thing is, I do this on the master. It would be preferably done on the kicks, and if there's different kicks, do it on every kick and then balance the kicks again. Because if I'm gonna do this, it's gonna mess up a lot of things in the breaks and the drops and whatever. And it also kind of pushes me into the next topic of kicks itself. I like the kick. I like, especially with the extra low end, I like the kick. It has a nice deep feeling. It hits very nicely, good punch, good smack. So that's for me as a definition of a nice kick, especially with the supportive low end. Now, the questions that I have that I couldn't ask at this point, which makes it either relevant or irrelevant for the feedback, are the kicks and the fills. So this part, this whole part, till here, it's quite a part, is what to me seems like either a long fill kick slash break, or either it's a kick switch. If it's a kick switch, it lacks way too much power. So if we would look into it, this is what I could look into as a fill kick or filtered kick. Obviously this one is good. Missed that one in the beginning. So this is a fill kick, that's nice. So we have more power whenever this one slams. And even this one with the low end is dope. So here it supports a bit, but here it's really powerful. This live on a sound system, it's literally gonna smack everyone to the ground. Then this kick. Okay, we go back again. So yeah, still, these two kicks are dope. I missed them in the beginning, so we can skip, scratch the previous few minutes maybe. Either way. This really feels like it has to be fill kicks, yet if these are kick switches that also need power, then the subs are completely off. Like, we really need a sub in what I call the ideal sub area, 40-55 hertz. That's everything above 55 isn't a sub anymore. It has no power. Don't try to give it power, it has no power. It might work live for sure, yet not a sub, no power. So from A, we start to have power, we start to have sub power. So I like to give that as kind of the top of subs you can use. Then E is debatable with D and D sharp. Maybe some people like even to go to C1 or C sharp. Yet E is already hard to physically being produced by small speakers. So everything below that is even harder. Near field speakers, 8-inch, you could basically say forget it, that they can show it loud enough in the full mix. You would really need a subwoofer to provide that frequency, or the three-way speakers that also go deep enough. The speaker needs the physical capacity to provide that deep frequency loud enough in a full mixdown. So this is already hard to hear, everything below even harder. That's why I don't necessarily advise it, yet it works. There are many producers that work in D or D sharp and make it work, yet I can tell you already that 70 or 80% of your listeners will never experience that, because their speakers just simply do not produce that deep frequency. So if we take that knowledge of 40-55 as a kind of guideline of where subs have to be, this doesn't even come close. It feels also filtered because there is a bit of low end here. So it's probably a filtered kick. which then makes a lot of sense if we go to this kick, because we go from less power to full power. Then this kick again could be a filtered kick or a fill kick again. I do not know. If the producer wants to reach out, let me know. So this again has no power. If I want this to have power, I would have to do drastic stuff like this. And this even is just doesn't work because it's either filtered or designed this way. So if we would want this to have power, I would have to add another sub or really do drastic stuff, but this is going to resonate. Yeah, this kind of shows you how the brain works. At the same time, like if I push out that frequency loud enough so that it becomes dominant, that's when it gets focused and we can hear it and it does its job and its function. So it showcases that, yet in this case, I just guess this is really designed to be that way. Yet I have to point out that if the kicks are designed to be different, you need to rework the low end. But going from the arrangement, how it goes from a filter kick, let's say I think it's a filter kick or fill kick, to a big kick, and again, it's probably meant like that. The only thing I question now is more this part. I guess it's the same, yet because it's been like this for quite the distance, it also makes you wonder if it's a fill kick or designed to be a kick switch. Either way, if this is designed to be a fill kick, filtered kick, perfect. If it's designed to be a full kick, we need to ramp up the low end. So this part is also cool to check with the EQ with and without low end. This is the interesting part. If you would take this part for a second and loop it, this kind of also explains how the brain works, more or less. So the main frequency here peaking out is this frequency. And we just spoke about the ideal subregion. This doesn't give any support whatsoever. It will give energy, it will give a push, yet it lacks all the support. Yet I can see low end moving right here, which is in that area that we just spoke about. So this could totally work, yet because it's too soft right now, it will never give you any support. So in this part, it's absolutely fundamental needed that we push that sub over here. If I would just make this change, now I just have to kick punch and okay, it does its thing. If I push this, that's when I have the power and the support. And that's the money shot. That's what we need. That's what's gonna make people have a stanky face. So the other part here, this part feels like a drop kick. In this kick, I would be close to try a new sub for this one, a little bit deeper. Yeah, it still works, especially when I push it. It still works. Yet I think if I really want to sub out of it, I have to push it even more. And it's a D, like D sharp. It's that deep frequency I just spoke about. So either if it's filtered, if there's something on, try putting it off. If it's not meant to be that deep, I totally get it. Everything kind of depends on flavor as well as the intention and the goal of the track. Yeah, this feels like a kind of drop moment, especially after this part. So already pushing that extra sub does make it hit more as it's supposed to be, which then still works nicely if we switch to this part where there's more like a tail that makes it more dominant. Basically rinse and repeat from kicks. So also this one, without the support, should actually do everything, of course. Let's just take the sub. So without this push, you would mainly have the kick and no sub, no support. So this one could also be interesting to look into the fine-tuning of the low end, because I think if you would push out this frequency a little bit more, you have a very deep tail and kick. So, and that's where the tail is. That's the real carrier of the track, the tail, you know. Yeah, this already does an amazing job on the subs. So here we have again a part with different kicks. So this could again be a kind of like pre-drop moment where it does hit again, we're going at it again, yet not full force. If that's the case, this will work. If this is a kick that's supposed to be more like a drop, it will not work. We need a better sub for that. Same for this part. It kind of feels like it has to drop here, and the low end isn't doing that. So if this is what you're looking for, that this has to be a drop like this is doing, we need to redesign the subs. Absolutely, because this one will be more like a filtered kick, fill kick kind of vibe, which you already have here. So that would be like fill into fill, more or less into drop, which could obviously work. Yeah, it all depends on what your intention is for this part. So yeah, that's what I have to say. Same for this part. If this is meant to be that way right before the break, that it kind of filters, perfect, does the job. If it has to smack, if it has to kick, then we need another sub. And this also counts for the break, by the way, if I would take another EQ. This also works for the break as well as any other part in your track. I can feel the bass, yet it's very distant. If I want more support, or if you want more support out of your bass, you gotta make it more dominant. If you see the frequency over here, these two here, or mainly this part, this is where your sub is, and this is what's gonna support. And you can see that everything is kind of overshadowing that low end. So if you want that bass to be big and nasty and support, I would say this part is debatable if we need more sub. Because here I feel it's really working. This part, could use a little bit more, in my opinion, for impact. If we work on impact, could use a little bit more. If it's meant like this, be my guest, to do it as it was. I can still feel it, it's there. Yeah, if you want it to be more brrr, you have to push it more. And the break though, the guitar work, I'm so curious to hear if this is a sample somewhere taken or played it himself. I know there are some guitar wizards out there in the techno scene that could absolutely smack a nasty solo. Yeah, it makes me wonder, and without disrespect, also makes me wonder if it's AI generated or played himself, because the vocal sounds AI generated or from a sample pack. It doesn't sound like made himself. If that's the case, my bad, still love you. Yeah, it does make me question, because I have generated some tracks with AI in the past. I know what it can do, and I hear some sounds and patterns that I have heard before when I generated AI. I haven't generated any metal, hard techno, industrial kind of tracks before, yet it does make me wonder. If you're the producer, let me know. No disrespect, just gotta ask. So either way, sounds dope. I love the guitar work. I love the effects. I love how the break is handled. I wish there was more music like this. So either way, my hats off. Great job. Then the thing is, if we hit back to that drop, I see a nasty little click here, by the way. This one is nasty. You can take it off. I would look into the vocal because I think it's there. It's like running deep on the D. There's this nasty click. If you can't get it out, get yourself RX or anything to remove the clicks. I could actually show that right now. I'm unsure if it's going to show the audio. Let's see. Had to find the track. All right, here we go. So in the break, it's here. Oh, we can see it. Look at this beauty. It's a big click. It's a nasty one. If we go back to the spectrogram, you can see it here. This kind of look. That's a click. Let's see if we can get it out with the D click. Let's see if we can pinpoint it if we do output clicks only. I have to check if the audio comes in first as well. Otherwise, nobody is going to hear this. Yeah, we got that. Let's see if we can take it out. All right, we can definitely hear it. It's doing some other stuff as well. Let's take it more in the middle. That's it, that's it, that's it. We can get it. So I select the small part, or otherwise it's gonna remove some other things. And then we can click render. I have to make it a little bit longer. Boom, now it's removed. You can also see it, it's gone. If I would go back to this, it's also gone, see? So that's cool. Let's listen to it.
Wanting deep, wanting deep, wanting deep, wanting deep,
Better,
wanting deep,
better, better, better.
wanting deep.
So yeah, that's how you could remove it if you don't have this tool. It could also be in the editing. So you could look into the editing of the sample and whatever might have happened there. But yeah, it's a nasty one, so I would remove it. Or you can find probably some things from Eric's online. There are some elemental tools like Elements, Eric's Elements. It's just the units, but with Ableton, it eats up a lot of CPU as well. So you have to freeze, flatten it, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it works if we have to. All right, back to the track. So yeah, without the EQ, this isn't dropping for me. This isn't hitting for me. I need this for it to really hit. And what could be interesting as well is if you, with volume automation, that's what I would do in mastering, by the way, but you can do it in your mixdowns as well. If you kind of lower like 1.5 to 2 dBs, lower your breaks, and then it goes back to 0 on the moment your drop hits. It's gonna make your drop hit more as well. It's like micro dynamics that have quite the impact if you use it well. That could be nice as well. So you go from your break into your drop is a little bit louder in volume, so it's gonna hit more. And trust me, 1 and 1.5 dB goes a long way already. So let's go back to this EQ. This already hits way more. Obviously, it's also a little bit louder, so I know. So yeah, these kicks here again, lots of low end, lacks low end if it really has to smack, lacks low end if it really has to smack, even though I feel this part is a fill kick again, a fill part again. If this one has to perform equally as this one, ain't gonna happen, because this one has that deeper frequency, especially now with this EQ. This one lacks, the dominant part is higher than the previous one, so this one will sound less heavy than the previous one. If you want that to change, you really have to change the subs or do some more aggressive work there. Then I guess this is a fill part. Definitely sounds like it. Now this would work because this kick is weaker in the sub. This one has more power in the sub. So this change would work because you go from weak to more power. These two obviously work. Yeah, this is the main kick, like I know. This one sounds deeper. The sub tail sounds different. But yeah, the kick works compared to some other kicks in there. Obviously, the tails are different, which has an influence on the power distribution all over the track. So it could be interesting to kind of double check the intention of every kick and every tail. What does this kick has to do for me? Like what is the job of this kick? Does it have to really push? Then we might need some new subs at some parts for some kicks, or look at what happened in the processing. Is there somewhere a low cut that we can remove so it frees up more low end power? Do we need to add a new sub in that part, or a supportive sub to make it more powerful compared to some other kicks? That is completely up to you and is completely in line with the intention of the track and the goal of the track. All I can do is point out that in general we need more sub for the support, and this goes to the kicks because the kicks provide the sub, and some kicks have a great sub, some kicks are okay or questionable, and then what I guess are the fill kicks, they're doing their job as they're supposed to. So that's quite nice. In general, speaking again over the overall balance, it is done already quite well. If you do this purely on how it feels and how it sounds, you're doing already an amazing job. Yet with an analyzer, we can really push out the details, seek the sweet spots, and go for it. So that's cool. I'm gonna go from kicks to another topic. I think kinda worked on the kick part a little bit more. Either way, if there's some questions after receiving the feedback, hit me up so I can help you if needed. Then I would love to go to the percussion part. For me, percussion is super important and incredibly underrated. There's so much power in percussion and texture that 90% of the producers are completely overlooking because they take the very basic loops and hats that there is. It's just the basics most of the time. Open hat, closed hat, 909 or something else, maybe a clap, maybe some percussion, and not even layered, just a few sounds of it. While simplicity is key, it can also be boring for some people, and boring is a heavy word, yet what can percussion and texture provide? It's background, it's animation in the back. When people listen to the track a gazillion times, they still kind of discover something that's happening. And with the current day's techno, it's just the foreground, what's up front. Those hi-hats, boom, that's it. When you listen to it 5 times, you get the picture. There's nothing new happening. And this is kind of what I feel with this track as well. It has the basics, perfect. If that's the minimum you can do, that will work. It will work. It's not about if it will work or not. This will work. Yet I do feel like when I listen to this track now a couple of times, there's nothing in the background getting my attention. Now, at the same time, I'm also super aware that this track is already full with a lot of things happening. And yeah, too much is too much at the same time as well. Yet a simple layer of an already existing job, like an open hi-hat, a simple layer to that open hi-hat already tingles the brain and gives a different sound to it, a variation to what you already have. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just layer what you already have with other sounds, with noise, with the most random things you can find. Smack in your kitchen, pots and pans and doors and whatever, and you have a shitload of percussion, which fills up the spectrum quite nicely as well. I'm also a big fan of noise, random noise. And noise is just the best addition of a layer you can have. It makes things sound really full and energetic. And at the same time, textures, swooshes, sweeps, lots of different kind of textures can fill up a lot of movement on the background and fill up the spectrum quite nicely. And that's kind of what I'm missing here. If it's there, it's not coming out. So in this case, I can only judge on what I can hear. And then I'm like, okay, this works perfectly, really well done. Yet it's the same everywhere. Like the moment the hi-hats start to get in, it doesn't really change. Open hat, ride and clap. Basic hi-hats and claps. The ride again. Basically, you're sold out. Like, we're not even in the middle of the track, and this part, you're already completely sold out in what you have as percussions. And there might be once in a while things coming that I haven't listened to right now. Yet in terms of what do you have to offer to the listener, you're sold out. And what I like in music, which is a personal opinion, by the way, if you feel different about it, good friends, really everybody their opinion. Yeah, what I feel like on this part is that if you can surprise the listener in this part, for example, with sounds it never heard in the previous part, that's for me a pro. That's for me awesome. Like when somebody is listening to the track and at the end they're like, oh, this is interesting. Even if it's just a subconscious change that they don't consciously notice, it still gets noticed by the brain and be like, oh, yeah, this is interesting, this is cool. So even for that part, it's super interesting. And I would challenge you to see what you can add. And same thing, go to the max, go to as much as sounds you can add until you're like, damn, this is way too much. Because then you know the maximum of that tune, the maximum it can handle. Because you might have missed a couple of open goals of textures or hats or percussions that could add up to the sound and the longevity of the track, because people are going to be more and more interested to listen to it, discover more things. So that's a bit my part in it. Mainly challenge yourself, push it to the max, and then start cutting again. If you want to keep it super simple, I know some people are really just cutting everything to go with the bare minimum. That works. You don't need all that percussion for a hit. Yet for some people, it's super interesting to listen to music in a different way. So that would be my point on it. Yet what is being used is being used well. Like it's effective. It does its job. And I like to skip between parts of the tracks. I like to do that because it kind of gives you an idea of how repetitive the track is. So the moment the hi-hats come in, it's basically the same all over the track, which works. But I'm here to challenge you, so take it as a challenge and try to be more creative on that part as well. Because you are creative if I hear what's happening here. Synths and melodies, it's, yeah, fucking relentless. It's a unit of a track with lots of intensity, lots of power. There's no holding back, relentless aggression. I love it. It's really well done. The patterns are nice. The notes are nice as well. Like, I'm not a virtuoso to hear everything, yet it just feels right. And that's for me the most important. The sound design is nice, yet I do question at some point what is self-written and what is sample packs, or maybe, dare I say, AI, because it's so unexpected. And it is used so well. It's be honest, chaotic, yet it's used so damn well that on that part I don't really have anything to say about it, yet it makes me wonder. So, well edited, great edits, well implemented, energy all over, yet we kind of come back to the arrangement part where I do feel like, where is the breathing part? Where is there a moment to breathe? The real moment to breathe is this part here in the break, which is super dope. Then there's other parts. It's so relentless in energy that also might spark up a question like, what is too much? And I think this is really on the edge. It's very ballsy for me. It's really on the edge. Yeah, there's not a lot of breathing space to it, which could be interesting for future tracks. Yet again, it depends on intention and on the vision and on the goal. If this is meant to be like this, go for it. Like, I'm not stopping you. Yeah, I remember feedback I got back in the day often, that giving people some space to breathe, and the mix sometimes in the arrangement, a bit of space to breathe, could give more impact to other parts or opening shots to mix in or mix out. So, Synths and Melodies, it's really well done. To be honest, there's not a lot for me to say about it. I absolutely love it. The only thing I could probably find interesting, the acid is super repetitive, and that's what acid does. Yet it could be nice to play with the notes a bit, chop it up, or in the beginning, not have the accents, but more basic, just the da-da-da-da-da-da, just to have it driving. Because that, to be honest now, listening it a few times, the acid becomes super repetitive. And I think that's something you would more like to prevent. But the synths are really dope. The guitars are absolutely berserk on this part. This is so cool. So much aggression. So much going on at the same time. It is a brain catcher, you know. For some people, I guess this might be too much. It might be too much going on, but I like it. I like me some chaos. It is kind of repetitive if I play it like this, though. That guitar sound is so dope. In terms of sound design, a lot of sounds get reused. They're really well placed and arranged and done, so if you play it in one piece, it's less repetitive than I'm just skipping it right now. It's really well designed. I love it. The aggression is there. The intention is there. I can feel that it's based on aggression and intensity, on energy. It's there. So that's really well done. The break parts where it becomes a little bit more melodic are super dope. The guitar parts are super dope. The edits are really nice. The combination of this techno and then the guitars and the synths and stuff, that's what I really love about this track. So yeah, not much more I can say about it. And let's see. In terms of the arrangement, I think I kind of covered a lot of it already. It's a shell shock of a track, which is dope. Yet, I feel the best advice or feedback that I could give you here are the breathing spaces and the intros and outros. Everything else is super done, or super well done, to name it that way. It could be interesting to have a little bit more breathing space in the first part, because it's like kind of choking people and keep on choking, you know, because it's so intense from start to finish. Yeah, that's also cool. So if that's the intention, well done. You achieved it. So if that's the intention and the goal, yeah, that's well done. Yeah, could be interesting for future tracks to play a bit more with, let's say, less in terms of less intense, less sounds, a little bit more simple in a way, to then go all out again. And I guess the fills are meant for that, but also the fills are so aggressive and heavy that that the intensity stays high. Like if you would create an intensity graph, it kind of just maxes out and it stays that way until the break. Then it drops and then it maxes out again until the end. There's not really a lot of this going on, which could be nice. Now it's just peaking and stay peaking, you know? So that could be the only thing I kind of put on that. And I think I'm kind of around with the feedback stuff of, let's say, my cheat sheet of this feedback. So in general, again, I love the track. I love the uniqueness of this track. I also like the arrangement, nonetheless. I like the high energy stuff, yet for me it feels like this could be, because it's so intense all the time, for a lot of people that could also be the deal breaker of, yeah, this is too much for me, and they kind of skip, because it also takes a long time until this part hits. And if people have to play through all that part, so intense, non-stop, one guy will absolutely love it, and the other guy will kind of skip because it's too intense. Now, do you have to look at the skippers for that part? No, not at all. I make my music especially how I want to hear it. So if this is how you want to hear it, perfect. Like, keep it that way. Yeah, that could be my feedback. Even to maybe put the break somewhere faster, and then scoot around a bit, because then you're intense, you're peaking, you're dropping a little bit faster in the intensity, then max out the peak in the drop, and then you can slowly enter towards the outro parts. And it also makes it a little bit more DJ friendly. That's feedback I once gotten that really helped me a lot, like kind of redistribute where your peaks are and where your breaks are. If you like it here, again, keep it here. Yet it could be interesting to play with it. Like, where do I put the break and where do I put the drop? A little bit earlier, a little bit later. The main thing for me to give with you is the finishing touch. The low end has also parts where it's a bit messy, like a lot is going on. So I feel like a little bit more low end management and clarity would be nice, especially in pushing the low end. That's for me the biggest game changer for this track, is that low end. If you can make it support, it's truly gonna blast. It's gonna have a nice amount of power. And it might need more in-depth work on the low end, on the different kicks. So that's a bit the sad part of this being a feedback video without you as a producer being there with me. I lack the freedom to ask you questions. What is the intention for this or that or that or that? Because that is going to have more or less relevance for my feedback for you to apply it. Got a bit lost in the sauce there with my words. So in either way, if you want to reply on this or want to come back to me, if you dislike or like some of the feedback, or in general, hit me up. Well down to talk about it. If there are some questions, hit me up. And for the people watching this, as a demo of Trackbacked, welcome. And I also hope to see you in a feedback video or feedback service. Hit up the guys, go to the platform, and this is it. Ciao, ciao.